So in this video we're going to be talking about the care of the Fijian iguanas.
His name is Icarus and he's a Brachylopus fasciatus, a Lao banded iguana. And he's gonna eat now. Lovely.
He's a very good boy. Let's roll the intro. Welcome to Reptiles with Lopez. Okay, so the Fiji Banded Iguanas are a tree-dwelling species, so they're fully arboreal. They rarely come to the ground. In fact, we have never seen Icarus be on the floor of his terrarium. And he is actually a fully legal pet here in Finland. And also the rest of the Europe and Canada, you're allowed to have these pets. But unfortunately for the people watching from the US, it is illegal there.
So there are 3 species in the genus Brachylopus. You have the vitiensis, that is the crested iguana, Fiji iguana, which is extremely expensive. 6,000 euros was the last time that I checked. That was the price for one male. And then you have fasciatus and bula bula. They are very similar, fairly similar, but bula bula have circular nasal scales and they are yellow. And then you have the fasciatus, this phala, which is elliptical and orange, a bit more orange, the color. And also the location is different because bula bula tends to live in the central area of Fiji Island. And then in the Lao Islands is where you find fasciatus more often.
In the captive bred individuals, I think it's also sometimes difficult to say which is which, as there has been some mixing, especially for instance with the nasal area. It's impossible to say, for instance, from him. So as you can see, they are quite docile. Icarus decided to jump on top of Jose's head. But let's talk next about the enclosure sizes. So for a single adult Fijian iguana, the recommended size would be around 90, 60 and 150, with having more height as it is an arboreal species, and always go bigger if you can.
Indeed. And then if you have a couple, the recommendation is that you find a way to separate them. Also, if you're gonna get a couple, you're planning on breeding, we are not, so we just got this male, but if you have a couple, the recommendation from most of the European breeders is that you have a larger enclosure and you find a way to separate the male from the female after the breeding season. And that is not a good idea to put them together, the male and the female, when they are already adults, because according to them, they will kill each other. Not nice.
No, not nice indeed. So, how about substrate? What is the correct substrate for these guys?
There's just not just one answer to that question. In our case, we have a bioactive system and we have a mix of different ingredients to make it work because they all have a different function. At the bottom, we have leca balls for the drainage layer. On top, we have hydrofleece, like a layer of hydrofleece fabric, and you can find that in most of the garden shops. And then we have a mix of topsoil, activated carbon, sphagnum moss, orchid bark, and cocoa fiber. And each of these components have a different role. The ratio is 2 parts topsoil, 2 parts orchid bark, and orchid bark is very important for the aeration of the soil. We also have cocoa fiber, 1 part. 1 part is the activated carbon, and 1 part of this whole ratio is the sphagnum moss. The sphagnum moss to retain the humidity. And the activated carbon, I was gonna forget, for the absorption of contaminants. So it's crucial.
Yeah, and the humidity can actually be a problem, but there is also a solution.
Yes, so when you follow this bioactive system, it's not just about mixing different ingredients as the ones that I was mentioning and just let them be there, like staying there. You also need the cleaning crew, and in our case we use sprinters and isopods, which is the most common cleaning crew that people use for bioactive, and they have different niche, ecological niche. In the case of the sprinters, they are more focused on feeding on the mold and the fungus, and in the case of the isopods, they're going to be more focused on the general recycling of the nutrients and the leaves that fall and all the organic matter that falls on the ground.
So you guys might not want your house to be cluttered, but these guys definitely enjoy it. So when you are building and planning your enclosures, make sure that you have a lot of branches that they can climb on, a lot of leaves and stuff that they can hide behind, even if they are artificial. And make sure that they have a basking spot and that they have a lot of space to move around the terrarium so that the upper part is not just empty air. Okay, here are some plants that we recommend to use inside the Fiji Banded Iguanas enclosures. We, for instance, have pothos in there, and Icarus has actually ingested a little bit of it. It is not necessarily toxic, but high quantities can lead to health issues, so be sure to monitor your animal. As it is a herbivore, it might end up eating the plants in the enclosures.
One of the species that he loves, like most of the iguanas, is hibiscus. Hibiscus rosasinensis. He loves the flowers, and of course he loves the young leaves. And other species that he doesn't eat but they are very interesting to keep the enclosure humid are Schefflera, the genus Schefflera, the Chinese money plant. I'm not sure about the name of the species, but yeah, Chinese money plant, and also bird's nest fern, which you can use for lower levels with less access to the light. And again, it will help you to keep the humidity. They're not going to have any interest probably in eating them, but they will help with the humidity level.
Okay, so in the Fijian Islands where these guys are from, the temperature and the climate is relatively constant. So how should we actually keep them in the enclosures?
Yeah, so in general, the recommendation for the basking spot is a temperature between 32, 38 Celsius degrees. And then in the rest of the enclosure, it should be cooler. It should be between 24, 29 degrees maximum. And there should be a drop of temperature in the night. And the temperature during the night should be 21, 24 degrees maximum. And again, thermoregulation is fundamental like with any other reptile, so make sure that there is a basking area and then an area with a lower temperature in the enclosure and the animal can explore vertically and horizontally. Regarding the UVB level, we normally are using these Arcadia light bulbs or rectal systems. 12% is the most common percentage of UVB that is recommended for the average distance between the UVB source and the basking spot. But if your basking spot is very close to the UVB source, you may end having to use 6% instead. But again, in general, it should be 12%, but make sure that you check what is the recommended UVB percentage for the regarding depending on the distance.
And also, what is another point that you should be taking into account is the type of enclosure that you have. How is the mesh on top if you have the UVB on top of it, or if you even have the UVB inside, because of course different type of meshes will absorb a little bit of the UVB, and that will also affect what type of bulb you should use.
Yeah, especially the metallic mesh will absorb a lot of the radiation.
And also, of course, the size of the holes in the mesh.
Indeed.
Okay, so for the UVB, a high output T5 bulb would be the best choice. And it is super important to give the UVB also for this animal, even though they're not like, for instance, bearded dragons from the like super arid areas, but it is crucial still for the metabolism of calcium so that they don't get the metabolic bone disease either. So definitely give also Fiji Banded Iguanas UVB.
Yeah, we also recommend LED to mimic the natural daylight, and also because they will allow your plants to be alive and do well. And normally we use a cycle of 12, 14 hours per day. So regarding the humidity, because they come from Fiji, a very humid place, they need a humidity of around 70, 80% with peaks of up to 90%. And to achieve that, we are using a misting system, and we are misting twice a day. One in the early in the morning and another one in the late evening. And so far that is helping us a lot to keep the humidity at the right percentage.
But choose your misting schedule according to the enclosure you have, because different enclosures will behave differently. So just monitor the humidity levels, and that's how you make sure that they are correct. And of course, for the humidity, it's super important for this animal, also for the healthy skin and the shedding process, so that they don't get any stuck shed. For instance, here you see that he's starting to shed a little piece of his tail.
Can be seen.
Yeah, it's not focusing, unfortunately.
He's there at the base of the tail. Okay, regarding the diet, they are primarily herbivorous, but many sources suggest that they are omnivorous in the wild. So the core of their diet should be plants. However, we offer insects. At the moment, we are offering insects once per week. We're offering mainly crickets, and as you saw, they love them. Crickets and dubia roaches over mealworms because they have less fat content and they have a better ratio calcium to phosphorus. And we, of course, dusting these insects in calcium.
So the staple greens should be different type of leafy greens, such as dandelion greens, collard greens, mustard greens, kale and endive. And they can also get some vegetables like carrots and butter squash and bell peppers, but bell peppers a little bit less often maybe. And also fruits can be given to Fiji iguanas, and they include mango, papaya and some berries.
We also recommend to use a bowl of water, at least provide clean water, although in general 99% of the cases they will drink from the drops of water that are falling from the misting system.
Yeah, and also we have seen Icarus drink some water droplets from the glass when the water from the misting system goes there.
Yes, you do that. Regarding the taming process, the interactions with him, I strongly disadvise what we did, the mistake that we made, especially me at the beginning when we got him, which is grabbing them. And that was very stressful for him. So
he was very stressed. I mean, Jose was very stressed that Icarus was not eating for almost 2 weeks.
Which is very normal. They needed time, and I shouldn't have been grabbing him at the beginning. He should have a space for at least minimum 2 weeks to just explore the new enclosure and feel more confident there.
And he started eating in the end, so everything was fine. But anyway, we learned from our mistakes, and later we have been using high value feeds, like both insects and fruits and berries, sometimes to give him positive reinforcement when we have been handling him, and this is the result. As you can see, they are super easy to handle. They are super nice animals, absolutely amazing temperament.
Chill guys.
Yeah, super chill. And that is actually also why he became the logo of our channel. And yeah. And I think we made the right choice with that. Right, guys?
Look at this beauty that is now shy.
Yeah, it's not even focusing.
He doesn't like the camera, but it's fine. He's too good for the camera.
It's not taking it at all.
It's fine.
Thanks for watching, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.